But we have to start with where you and Willard left off yesterday, Dibs, which was reacting to the embarrassing defeat the Giants took at Oracle Park yesterday against the Cincinnati Reds. The Giants were up by 6 and 3 outs away from their first series sweep of the season, yet they made history, Dibs. One, they still have a chance to be just the 9th team in Major League Baseball history to never sweep a series over the course of an entire Major League season.
Is that true?
And one of those 8 previous teams, by the way, did it in the COVID-shortened 2020 season, so that doesn't even really count. They could be one of the 9 teams to ever go through a season without a sweep, and they lost for the first time in their franchise's history after leading by 6 or more runs going into the 9th. They're now 2,208 and 1 when leading by 6 or more entering the 9th inning. And look, the roster, the lineup yesterday, a lot of the arms out of the bullpen, this is the Sacramento River Cats plus Rafi Devers and Logan Webb. Like, that's what it is right now for the most part. So am I terribly upset that the Giants lost a game? No. But the 6-run lead that you blew in the 9th inning is just the perfect encapsulation of what this franchise is right now, Dibs. And I have no other way to describe it but just flat out embarrassing. It is embarrassing. I've never been this embarrassed to be a Giants fan than I am right now in this moment.
But my question is, how did you get from where you were, and forget like 107 wins because that was a lifetime ago, and that was Posey as a player and Crawford and Beld and Donnie Barrels. We did the whole thing yesterday.
Yeah.
And, that's now 5 years ago, which feels like a lot longer than 5 years ago. But how did you get to this point to where you mentioned it, you are basically a Sacramento River Cats plus roster? And if you want to go into next year, okay, so this year has been a disaster. What do you do about the roster? Forget Vitello and Buster and Zach Manassian, but what do you do for the roster between now and then? Well, you need probably 3 starting pitchers, maybe 4. You need a complete bullpen overhaul.
The Giants might not think that. All they need to do is 6th to 9th inning, Dibs.
Right, we can get a closer, and it's always easy to get like Aroldis Chapman or, Mason Miller.
Yeah, but last time Buster Posey was asked if they regret not going out and getting a closer, he essentially joked and said, well, what did you want us to do? Sign Edwin Diaz? Look how that's going.
Right.
He got hurt.
Well, and for that part, I think that Buster's right because you're not a closer away from being 79 and 54. Like, you're 54 and 79 because of a lot of other things. But we look at the bullpen, and especially yesterday, and it's like, yeah, if you only had a closer, that probably wouldn't have happened. But I'm thinking about going forward. Like, what do you need to make this team, I don't know, even get back to 81 and 81? You need 3 starters at least. You need 4 or 5 different people in the pen, and you need like a new catcher and a second baseman and probably an outfield upgrade. You need like 11 or 12 players between now and then. You can't do that.
No, this is a multi-year thing. The timeline for them to become competitive, and we're talking about getting back to what we're used to, which we hated for so long, which was 500 baseball.
Right.
That was like you're stuck in the middle. You're not being really that competitive, but you're not bottoming out.
We used to say like, ooh, the math is there. Like,
that's what we'd be saying right now.
You're 4 back with like 19 to go.
It's almost September. You're not out of it. If you just go catch fire.
Right.
You go 17 and 8 over the course of a month. Maybe you got a chance to sneak in.
Right. And if they won their last, I guess it'd be 29 games right now, and they got to 83 and 79, they still wouldn't make the playoffs.
No.
And so the math is there, but it's now like it's gotten to where it's ridiculous. You're probably going to lose 90, maybe 90 for sure. 95 is on the table. 100 would be, I think, a disaster.
They're probably not going to lose 100. How many games do they have left? And they're 54 and 79. So
they've got
played
29.
What? And they have to lose 21 to get to 100 losses. So if they go 8 and 21, it's 100 losses.
Right.
It's possible. They could absolutely do that.
Right, but 13 and 18 to lose 95, like that seems...
Oh, it's still terrible.
Very likely.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I said like 2 months ago, and it got put out there on social media, and everyone came down my road, and I said, if you bring back Buster and Zach Manassian and Tony Vitello after this year, you're telling me that you're not serious. Like, you're not serious about winning, and it looks like that's what they're going to do. And I still believe that.
Well, it feels like for the majority of this season, Dibs, the general answer to is Vitello going to come back? Is Posey going to come back? And we could include Manassian in this. I think he's very rightly like on the third guy on that list and pretty far below Posey and Vitello in terms of overall impact on the organization. But usually if you ask people that at any time throughout this season, your generic stock answer, Dibs, isn't based in some kind of confidence that either Vitello or Posey is the right guy for the job, and it's not based in your faith, your trust, your belief in them to figure this thing out and eventually prove that they're the right person for the job. But your answer generally is, well, they can't possibly fire them. You can't possibly fire Vitello after one season when this is the roster you gave him. And similarly to Buster Posey, you usually answer, well, you can't fire franchise legend Buster Posey after just 2 seasons as the president of baseball operations because that would just look bad on your franchise. You're still paying Bob Melvin for his past contract. Right. Now you're going to be paying Vitello and the other manager that you hire. Like the Giants are at a spot where it feels like the decisions that they're going to make that impact the future of their organization are made from a let's get as the least amount of blood on our hands as possible frame of mind, as opposed to what we actually think is best for the future of the organization.
Yeah, and you're also still paying Tony Vitello for his Tennessee contract buyout. So, like, you're paying him for that. You're paying him for this, and you would be paying him for next year if you, in fact, tried to fire him. So it would be, like a $10 million buyout, which is not that much when you're making as much money as they are. But the one thing about the Giants ownership that I'm learning is that they don't like to just lose money. They don't like to give money away. And so when you look at where they are right now, is Tony Vitello the problem? Is he a problem? Well, yeah, he's a problem. And I think that he'll be getting better. But we did the whole thing yesterday about like the starting 9 of who are the Giants' biggest problems. And Vitello might be the 4 or 5 hitter. And you look at other things about like Willie Adames is your shortstop, and he cannot
That's a major problem.
He can't be a shortstop. Yep. So you go ahead and move him to second, and then who's your shortstop? And you've got Rafael Devers, who doesn't seem to be totally a guy bought in to be a part of a Vitello team, and Vitello is new, he's learning, and Buster Posey's made a ton of mistakes, and all the way down the list. And so I look at next year and think, how do you fix it? Well, you can't really fix it. And I think about like a house where, okay, you need a new kitchen, you need electrical, you need a bathroom, you need plumbing, and you need a new roof. Well, you can't do all that in like 5 weeks unless you're totally loaded, and the Giants aren't that.
You bought a house, you felt like you got a pretty good deal on the house.
Yeah.
And then maybe you weren't... you didn't do a great job on the inspections before you put pen to paper. And after you put pen to paper, you go and you start moving in and you realize, this is going to take a ton of work until it's actually livable. And that's what the Giants are figuring out.
Yeah, and that's my house. Like, we moved in and we went to the open house and I tried to turn on a light and the realtor's like, oh no, we blew a fuse. That light's not going to go on. And it's like, oh my God, you blew a fuse. And you start to look through and it's like, oh my God, there's water under the house and the electrical needs an upgrade. And
does it have good bones though, Dibs?
The bones are great.
Yeah.
And the bones of the Giants are great to the extent
What are those bones?
Those bones are, you have a great organization and a great like standard, and you have
a great ballpark.
You do, but you also have Bryce Eldridge, and you've got Logan Webb for a couple of years, and you've got Rafi Devers, who is under team control, and he is mashing. I do think that there are things about the Giants you could look at and say, okay, that's good, but the electrical is bad and the plumbing is shaky and you need a new roof for sure.
I get everyone that says there's like the politics at play here, which is you can't fire Vitello after just one season when the president of baseball operations gave him this roster. And I get that. And it feels very unlikely that Buster Posey, unless he just is sick and tired of it and wants to stop, I don't see that being the case either. I don't see Buster Posey not being the president of baseball operations next year. Zach Manassian maybe is going to be the scapegoat for all this. If one of the guys leave, it's probably going to be him. I should say if one of them gets fired, it's probably going to be him. But that, to me, doesn't make much of a difference. This is a Buster Posey issue. This is a Tony Vitello issue. And I, for the life of me, Dibs, can't look at how bad this season has been, how embarrassing this season has been, and be willing to just, go again, ride this back, run this back next season with those faces leading this group. It does not seem worth it to me, considering just how ugly this has been.